Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church. And here I am, still in the Gospel of Matthew, with another story that applies to you and me. It comes from chapter 17, and it begins at verse 14. Here's what it says. At the foot of the mountain, a large crowd was waiting for them. A man came and knelt before Jesus and said, Lord, have mercy on my son. He has seizures and suffers terribly. He often falls into the fire, into the water. So I brought him to your disciples, but they couldn't heal him. Jesus said, You're faithless and corrupt people. How long must I be with you? Bring the boy to me. Well, let's stop there a second. It says there a lot of people came to Jesus, and that's true. He always drew big crowds. There was something about him that people wanted to be around him. Now, oftentimes, they wanted something from him, and that's what happened here. A man whose son had problems went to his disciples, and the disciples couldn't help. So he goes straight to the top dog, Jesus, and he said, "I brought him to your disciples, but they couldn't help him." I don't know. I don't know how it feels to come for help and get none. But I know that a lot of you listening today understand that. And in the process, perhaps you think that God doesn't care. Well, let's finish the story. Jesus said, You faithless and corrupt people, how long must I be with you? How long must I put up with this? Bring him to me. And it said, Then Jesus rebuked the demon in the boy, and it left him. And from that moment, the boy was well. And then the disciples say, Well, how come we couldn't do it? You sent us out to do these things, but we were powerless. How come? And here's Jesus' answer. You don't have enough faith. I tell you the truth. If you had faith even as small as a mustard seed, you could say to this mountain, Move from here to there, and it would move. Nothing would be impossible. Well, I have some problems personally when I read about someone not having enough faith. Most of the time, people bring all the faith that they have, even if it's just a little bit, and it doesn't seem to work. And somehow they think it's a quid pro quo type situation. I have faith, God does this. And that doesn't work that way either. Jesus says, and then uses the illustration of a mustard seed. A mustard seed is one of the smallest seeds. If you can see this, I don't know if you can or not, but get it over here. See the tip of this pin right there? If that were a mustard seed, or if this pen were, that's about how big it would be. That little tip right there. See, get a little bit closer here. See that's all it is. And Jesus says, if you have that much, you can move a mountain. You can tell it to be moved from here to there, and it'll happen. Because nothing is impossible with faith. Now, unfortunately, we in our society think that means that anything I want will happen. And that's not it either. This is the context of a little boy who has been injured and a parent who wants the best for his kid. Now, there are a lot of parents like that. There are a lot of little boys like this. I don't understand why all of them aren't immediately healed. Years ago, my son had scoliosis in his back, had to have surgery a couple times. And he said after the visits, he said, you know, John, Dad, I, I don't feel so bad when I see some of those other kids in there. I mean, I don't have any problems compared to them. And I so much wanted to just go over and lay hands on them and they'd be healed and walk out of that office. I wish I could do that. I don't understand how everyone Jesus touched did. We're sending his name. It ought to be the same for us. But what I do understand is that without faith, nothing is possible. It says here, nothing would be impossible without faith. We have to trust God. We have to believe that he knows what he's doing and that he hears us and that he wants to bring wholeness to our lives. We just have to believe that whether we can see it or not, he's working in our midst. Now, when we have a pre-prescribed outcome and we say, God, I want you to do this, that could be met with a resounding no. We all can't win the lottery. If we did, it wouldn't be much of a lottery to it. We all can't be the best at everything. We all can't be the worst at everything. And some of you, as you're listening to me, think you are down in the gutter and you belong in the gutter. And that's not what Jesus is saying. He's saying that we can climb out of that with faith. And we don't need much of it. How does that work? Well, that's a mystery for God to answer at some other point in time. But I know this, you and I have to have faith. Not faith in what the outcome will be, but faith in the God who is orchestrating the outcome and everything else. Without faith, nothing is possible. What do you think about that? If you need a good dose of faith, read this story 15 times and let's smack you over the head or something that says, hey, come on now, get with it. God is alive. God cares about you and about me. And he tells us that with faith, we can move mountains. We can change the world. We can make a difference in the world. So I invite you to share your faith, even if it's not completed. If you're still struggling with something. Thanks for listening. I don't know how this story is supposed to end for you and for me today, and so I'm just going to end it with the words of Jesus. Nothing would be impossible with faith. Try it, will you? See what God does. Thanks for listening. If you have a need or concern, tell us. We'll do whatever we can as fast as we can to help meet your need. Thanks for listening. I'll be back tomorrow and finish out the week. God bless you.